What's up, everybody? Welcome to Licked and Loaded. I'm Laura Desirée. Sex positivity is just sweeping the nation. The evidence I present to all of you is, of course, the smash hit success of Netflix series How to Build a Sex Room. Perhaps you too felt dizzied with excitement and giddy with joy when that title hit your Netflix home screen. The idea of bringing this subject matter to the masses gets me so hopeful that there will be a day that we can speak more openly, more confidently, and more compassionately about sex and the pursuit of pleasure. Joining me today is, of course, the interior design icon, the author, the sex positivity activist, and yes, the host of Netflix's How to Build a Sex Room, the sensational Melanie Rose. This is the thrill of all thrills for me, I must say, to our viewers and our listeners of this show. Maybe you also experienced the moment that you opened up your Netflix account and you saw the words, "How to Build a Sex Room," fill the screen. And maybe you were filled with all of the excitement in the world and then consumed the entirety of that series the moment it entered your Netflix. I know I did. I am overjoyed. I am overwhelmed. And I'm so excited to welcome the host, the author, and interior design legend, Melanie Rose, to Licked and Loaded. Hello.
Hello, thank you, Laura, for having me. I'm so excited to be chatting with you today.
I mean, there's a million places I want to start this, but just inquiring minds, myself being a someday Netflix hopeful, how has it changed your life? Having that level of exposure and viewing audience, are you getting recognized everywhere? What's it like being a Netflix star?
Actually, you know what? I've actually had to ask myself that because I'm, doing in my job, I'm very, very much under the radar. Designing sex rooms for a living is not something I go around and shout about because all my clients are NDAs. But yes, since the show, I've been humbled in a sense
Mm,
because I'm not used to people saying, "Oh, you are our icon. You
yeah.
are our queen." And I'm because I'm looking at myself going, yes, but I'm just Melanie.
Mm.
This is
Yeah,
who I am in person. Um, and it's strange. It's strange, but it's also very endearing. And
mm,
I realize now, I think it's only been in the last couple of weeks, really, that I have a voice for these people, dealing with sex positivity and, how much the show has changed people's lives. And that for me that's what I wanted. I
mm.
wanted to be able to, people to start opening conversations with their partners. Um, so that I'm like, yeah, okay, this is a good thing. And have I been recognized? Yes, I have. I think the funniest thing is that I was actually at Costco because I shop at Costco, and
Real
I was in,
person.
yeah, I was in the car park, and this gentleman rolled down his window, and he said, "Can I ask you something?" And I said, "Yes, of course." And he said, "Are you that woman on that Netflix show?" And I went, "Yes." And he was like, "Oh my God, I just love you." But nobody's actually managed to say, "Are you the host of How to Build a Sex Room?" They can't quite bring those words out. It's always like, "Do you have a show on Netflix?" Not, "Are you the host of How to Build a Sex Room?" Which I find quite amusing. I'm like, come
Well,
on, you can say it. It's sex, darling. It's okay.
it's we're starting to say it more in open forums and in public settings. And it's one thing to be on a Netflix show. It's another to be on a Netflix show that has this very intimate and personal message in it that taps into a vulnerable side of people. So I was curious how those interactions would be when the public approaches you, because it's not like you're running into, the host of one of the many game shows or one of the many competition shows. This is something very specific. We're talking about sexuality and about identity, individuality, and you are a sex positive individual. So people must come to you with that, level of, oh my goodness, I'm meeting a god of sorts.
In essence, yes. I think, I've always been very relaxed about talking about sex. And I think the way that people can relate to me is the fact that I'm very matter of fact about it. It's not I don't beat around the bush. I go straight there. And I think in some way that puts people at ease and gives them, it's more comfortable for them.
Mm,
Um, it was interesting filming this show, just how much people would talk about their intimacies, people that I have
mm,
not met before, and who felt very comfortable talking to me about, their orgasms, their lack of, their, clitoral stimulation, anal play,
mm,
impact play, and things like that. And I think that's what makes this show so unique and unusual is that people are talking about it. And I
yeah,
think if general public can see, sort of like the next people of every sort of like across the board, across the diverse range of people who you don't have to be a specialized, you don't have to be somebody, a type to have a sex room. But when the viewers are watching the show, it's like, oh, they're my next door neighbor. But look how
yeah,
easily they can talk about sex. And
yeah.
then that opens that. It's like, oh, okay, if they can do it, we can do it.
Were there instances in the experience of making just this inaugural season, were there any instances where you maybe wanted to go a little bit deeper or a little bit further in what you were creating for the rooms of the couples of the individuals on the show? Were there moments where you had to maybe pull it back just a little bit and make it more accessible or more entry level to, say, the viewing audience or even the clients themselves?
No, I would say not. I would say that I push the boundaries for each individual,
Yeah,
the individual clients. I'm not. I say I'm not there to shock people, but of course I fucking shock people. I'm bringing out a butt plug and a pair
yes.
of handcuffs and a dildo, and I'm saying, "Are you shocked by that?" Um,
Yes.
I think the only thing that I was not allowed to do was actually, for sake of viewership, was not
Mm,
allowed to bring actually a very lookalike penis in the form of a dildo.
right.
You know, and because that would be deemed offensive.
We're not there yet. We are not there yet, I suppose. But you know what? Like I said, I just want to celebrate the start that we're seeing in the public space known as Netflix. So I'm going to applaud this. This is historic, and having you on this show is also historic. Thank you, Melanie.
You're welcome.
I'm so curious to know how this foray into creating sacred sensual spaces, how this came about from a career of interior design. How do you bridge that and then activate it in people's lives? How did that come together for you?
Okay, so what general, I'm an interior designer, kitchens,
Yeah.
bathrooms, remodels, home remodels, perfect, lovely. I can do all of that. I was actually working with a client and I'd been with them for about 3 or 4 years. I tend to have clients that stay with me. And we happened to be in the bedroom, not for anything other than to discuss bed linens, how we were going to put a lock on the door, biometric thumbprint lock, and so forth. And they actually said, have you ever designed a sex room before? And I was like, no, no, but I'm not going to say no, but I'm going to go home and research that. And so I did. And I research and things that were throwing up, when you say sex or BDSM were really the side that people shy away from because they're
Mm,
graphic. They go to that real painful, dark place. But then as I was, pulling back the layers even more, I was like, oh, there's some there's some nice ones, but they're not beautiful. Why shouldn't that be something, a sex room be beautiful, something that could be delight in? Why does it have to be a dungeon that looks dirty and disgusting? Why can it be a dungeon with some class and some taste?
mm, mm-hmm.
So
I think a
that's
lot
how
of
it's
people,
sort of like,
they need the guide. They need a guide in that.
yeah, so that's how that came about. And I was like, why not?
Yeah.
It's pushing the boundaries for me creatively, and I'd like to feel that I'm a very creative person, so I need to be pushed all the time.
Yeah. It's something that I think a lot of people have a deep desire or longing to include more of in their life, more opportunities for sensuality and exploring themselves, whether it is individually or whether it is within their partnership, but they just don't know where to start. Is it building a tickle trunk of toys and goodies, or is it dedicating a whole space to saying this is where this kind of journeying happens? So, my goodness, did you step into a very necessary activation for people? My goodness.
I almost feel like I stepped into an alternative lifestyle,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, because with that you do research, and it's good to experience as well.
But sex positivity is something that you hold in your own life. I mean, it's who you are. It's written on your Instagram bio. It's who you are. You're a sex positive individual. What does that mean if you were to put a definition to sex positivity?
I think for me, sex positivity, I think it also depends on where you were brought up.
Mm,
Um, for me, it's being able to talk about sex openly and not being able to push it away and think it's shameful and distasteful. I think what's very interesting in my generation or my parents' generation when I was growing up, um, really talking about sex was sort of like discussed through the birds and the bees,
hmm.
or reading getting your child a book where it's called Jack and Jill,
Yeah.
or it was the parents left it up to the biology teacher at school to teach them about sex, but there was
Mm,
nothing ever discussed about the pleasure of it
mm,
and what you could get out of having sex with another person. It was
mm.
very, very matter of fact. um but it wasn't, oh my God, if you go to these erogenous zones and, you feel the clitoris or you tap or you tease, none, pleasure was not talked about, discussed at all. It was purely sex, procreation, and that's what it was.
Yeah. And I hate to say it, in many places, it's still just that. We're pushing abstinence in school discussions of sex education, and there's virtually no addressing of pleasure whatsoever. There's, of course, the societal conditioning of shaming that lives today, regardless of, where you are in this country. There's a lot working against the effort of sex positivity. However, I have noticed that over the last 5 years, we are starting to talk about pleasure more, about seizing a more sex positive life. I live in New York City. There's a number of sex positive communities here where people can meet other members of the community and celebrate in all sorts of ways, whether you're just an advocate or an activist or whether this is your lifestyle. I'm curious if you have thoughts or theories on there being a sexual revolution happening right now, be it gender expression and identity, be it the actual kinds of sex and sexual discussions that we're hosting. Do you believe that there's a sexual revolution happening?
I think every generation has a revolution. And I
Mm,
think it's really quite interesting that, it's generally powered by women.
mm,
I think there is a change. I think if you look at society these days and our acceptance of what we're being shown on television, um, again, back in the generations, our parents' generation, where the television was turned off at like 10 o'clock or went off air at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, we now have access to streaming platforms who are pushing their own boundaries of what is allowed to be shown.
mm.
Is it okay to show 365 days? That was a
Yeah,
quite an explicit movie. All three movies were quite explicit, based off books. You've got television shows where perhaps I think it's is it Succession, or is it
yeah,
the other one where you see somebody peeing on somebody else?
yeah.
And those elements of BDSM. So is it becoming more acceptable? I think it is for the mainstream media now. You look back in times when Lady Chatterley's Lover, for instance,
Classic.
1928, okay, then was banned, republished again by Penguin in 1960, and then taken to court because of the Obscene Act. Okay, but
Yeah.
now look where we are now. This coming December on Netflix, they've got the movie of Lady Chatterley's Lover.
It's
So I
amazing.
think we are seeing that sex, talking about sex, seeing sex is
Mm,
becoming more mainstream. So I think it's becoming more acceptable.
yeah.
I think what happens is just we need to bring that into the living rooms and make it acceptable to talk to our partners.
Absolutely. I think that the success of shows like yours on a mainstream platform like Netflix, this helps the momentum in sex positivity actually, gain more energy, more strength, and reach more people. I speak to so many, like myself, people who are content creators online, that are naked people online, that, share themselves in all sorts of expression, and their visibility is threatened. A lot of their content is taken down. A lot of the posts that they make on social media platforms are removed, they're banned. And so there is an ugly side of rising censorship that I do find very alarming and concerning, because every once in a while it does bridge over into educational content, or really it's a First Amendment right to permit us to express ourselves as we see fit within the law. And so that does worry me, but it's shows like this, and it's efforts made by individuals like yourself, where I go, okay, maybe we will prevail.
Right. I think you brought up a really key word there: censorship.
Mm,
It's as you look at the internet now in all of its glory, it's a shame to see that perhaps governments and individuals are now putting censorship on what people can actually view and what actually people can post,
hmm.
which I think is sad. I think
Yes.
if you want to view it, go and view it at your own leisure, and
Mm,
enjoy it if you want to. Same with my show. If you don't like it, or you have something to say about it, don't fucking watch it. I don't care.
there you go.
Um, Move forward. I had a problem with my Pinterest board. Now I have a Pinterest
Yeah.
account which I've had for years, and I go in there and I dabble in it. And as soon as the show came out, I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just create a board called "How to Build a Sex Room" or the initials of, and then just put stuff on there that I see online, or has been exposed to media and so forth. And it was wonderful. And I got an email. I had like 78, 90 posts on there.
Wow.
And I got an email from Pinterest saying, hey, just want to let you know that we've removed one of our bots. We've removed one of your pins because it's against our community guidelines.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
what? Okay. So now, and the with the faint threat of, if you do this again, we will
Yes.
remove your board.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, you want to play at this game. So I wrote back to them and I said, dear Pinterest, thank you for letting me know, da, 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 in my very English way. I said, please provide me with a photograph of the pin that crossed your community guidelines, because by that way, I can actually see what is offensive to them.
Hmm.
And then I can, take it on board and think, okay, so I just need to be careful. They sent me back an email saying, no, we cannot, because it crosses our community guidelines. Like I'm going to be fucking offended by a pin that I already put up that they took down. Anyway, they
That's
actually ended up taking the entire board down. And
wow.
I was like, I'm sorry, you took down my entire board. So I put it on
It's
Instagram. And I was like, this is pictures of beautiful sex rooms. I have a
yeah.
show on Netflix.
Yeah.
It's been, it's global.
Yeah.
Anyway, I
It's
put it
it's
on
it's to
Instagram.
yeah, and I mean, you're lucky that it lives there, because of course Instagram has also been a bit of a battleground for
Yeah.
content that might even be questionable in any which way. But you've got the blue check, so I think you're invincible. You've
Oh,
got the
actually, yeah,
blue check.
I got that the other day. But, going back to Pinterest, they actually reinstated my board. But that's
Oh,
only because I got pulled up by a news team who
Yeah.
actually sent it, and it went global.
Wow.
So that's how I got my board reinstated. But
Well,
why do we have to go that step? Why do we
to
have to go
keep the
that extra
power.
mile to do
It's to
that? Because somebody
that's
else is saying it's offensive.
right. It's to hold the power. They don't want to identify exactly what it is that, breached the community guidelines. They just want to say that something you did has, disturbed the force here, and so we're going to take it all down. If they keep it vague, we can't play by the rules and not get in trouble. They want to find reasons to get sexual expression, and people who enjoy this part of their life, they want to find ways to keep us getting in trouble. And
Yeah,
it's
but
very frustrating.
they want to keep us censored. They want to
Yes,
tie us down.
that's it.
They want to keep us in this box. Fuck that. I don't want to be in a box. I want to be out of the box.
Yeah. Yeah. I sometimes I do like being in a cage, but
Well, darling, now, dear diary,
Melanie, I would love your take on how leading a sex positive life, embracing this side of yourself, is life fulfilling? In what ways is it fulfilling? How does it illuminate one's world in ways that they might not be able to comprehend in living, say, a sex negative or just outside of sex positivity? How does it change your life to seize this?
I think it changes a life because it puts a different perspective and everything is much brighter and much happier. It's more positive.
Mm,
I don't deal with a lot of negativity. And if I do, I try and push that away and make sure that, everything about my life is positive, and good and is feeling good. And I think the way you can do that to yourself is, loving yourself, loving your body image, not feeling you're going to be shamed by anything, but I'd also be open to talking about sex and talking about things that you would like to achieve.
mm. Yeah, having opportunities to host those discussions, how freeing it is, how absolutely beautiful it feels. I
Oh,
agree
it's
wholeheartedly. Yes.
liberating,
Yeah.
absolutely liberating. And it's almost like, if you've been brought up in perhaps a relationship that is not happy for you, is not good for
Mm,
you, and you've never given that the power of the word no.
mm,
Once you have got over that and you can actually say no, that is incredibly liberating. So, talk about sex and what you would like and fantasies and be open about
mm,
it. That is like, oh my God, I've got a weight off my shoulders.
mm,
I'm feeling free.
mm.
How exciting is that?
It's a practice in voicing exactly what it is that you like and what you want. And so much of our pursuit in this journey is, how do I get what I want? Start asking for it, start talking about it. I promise you'll start getting it. And my God, is it good?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. If you don't ask, you don't get.
That's right. That's right. And you know what? I think I wouldn't be able to call this a job well done if I didn't ask Melanie Rose, do you have a sex room? If so, what might we find in there?
Darling, if I told that would be telling if I told you I had a sex room. Um, I think what I can assure you of, which was totally unexpected to me, was the amount of sex toys people are sending me. Um,
Oh, get ready. Get ready.
which is overwhelming. I never expected that. I'm a designer. I look at sex toys all the time for ready for clients. I suggest things. Primarily I'm a designer that creates fantasy
Yes.
rooms. And then it's like another box has arrived from my manager. Another box has arrived, and I'm like, oh, what's in this? It's like being Christmas. It's been Christmas every day since the show has dropped,
Oh,
which I think is absolutely wonderful, and I'm humbled by that as well.
it's a wild world out there, all of the products available to us as human beings today. Melanie, thank you so much for your time today and for coming to play and letting us in and your beautiful life philosophy. For everyone who is watching and listening, would you please let us know how to find out more about you, your life, and your work, and what online spaces we can find you?
Oh, that's so nice. I really enjoyed doing this podcast. Thank you.
Thank you. What is hang on, let me just make sure. For social media,
Yes, darling.
what handle will we need?
I think you should probably do Instagram. That's
Hmm.
probably the safest at the moment. I'm not sure which direction Twitter is going.
Yeah, no one knows.
With this vain threat of having to pay for your blue tick every month, I'm like, you know what? I don't necessarily need that. I think so. I think Instagram is the way to go. I'm very private on Facebook, so I've kept that as my privacy.
Got it.
Even though I've got 2,000 people that are just like, can you friend me and stuff like that. Please, please, I need some normality in my life as well.
Understood.
Um,
Understood. So
you have
Instagram.
press sneaking around and things like that. It's like, okay, yeah, you got that wrong. Anyway, yeah, Instagram, Melanie Ruth Rose, that would be perfect.
Wherever you are watching, listening, or tuning in from, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Licked and Loaded. Please make sure to like, favorite, and subscribe to this channel wherever you have found us. I'm Laura Desirée, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
This has been a CAM4 radio production. Come say hi at www.cam4radio.com.